Scotty, Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Sunday, January the 8th, race number 8 at Santa Anita, a very early Kentucky Derby points race. It's the grade 3 Sham, and we're going a 2-turn mile. It's 100 grander. Let's take a look at this field. Please scan the QR code for race of the day access on your mobile devices. Bob Baffert only has 4 in here, Mike. Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, a lot of fun looking at these 3-year-old races out in Southern California, isn't it, Dan? You get to choose among 3 or 4 Bafferts, and then you get to decide which one's going to go and use their speed, which ones are going to concede. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun.
I know the angle usually is the other Baffert, but when you have 4, is it the other Baffert and reincarnate the one at the best price wins? Maybe so. Anyway, we'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race, and for a short field, we're expected to see some pace. Spun Intended was a pace prompter sprinting, and I would think stretching out is going to want to get good position. Newgate from the rail, if Frankie Dettori breaks running with this one, should be up close to the pace. And who knows what we get from Speedboat Beach, returning to dirt after 3 turf tries. It is curious. I think Newgate's going to be really aggressively handled out of there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all of the Bafferts have speed, Dan. So, I think that's one of the challenges of this race, to decide, which ones are going, or which one is going, and what the other ones are going to do after that. As far as this pace projector goes, I would just say, especially if the red is correct and the pace is fast, there is almost no chance that the 6 is on the lead.
Newgate, the number 1, won his career debut at Del Mar, a very expensive son of Into Mischief. While he's been beaten in his last 3 starts, he rebounded a bit last time out in this race. The grade 3 Bob Hope going 7/8 of a mile, where he showed some speed, and he ends up finishing an honest second with a career best 87 Buyer's speed figure. I'm not sure what kind of horse this one's going to end up turning out to be, but I won't be surprised if it's more of a middle distance type, 7/8 a mile.
I think that's probably possible. He ran fine in here. His stablemate, who wound up winning the race, was just a little bit too good for him. He ran fine in there. I really, I get that in the Breeders' Futurity, the only time they stretched him out, Dan, I know that he was 3 wide and he was sort of contesting the pace in there. To me, he did not look like a horse who got better going longer. He was just going up and down the final furlong of that race. I think he's better sprinting.
National Treasure is the number 2, and he's a nice, honest Baffert-trained son of Quality Road, second in the American Pharaoh behind Cave Rock, and then he ran a good third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile behind the 2 best 2-year-olds in the country, and he ran his race here. This was just the best he could do at this point, a 95 Buyer speed figure, but he seems like the kind that has a little bit of upside potential, and I won't be surprised, Mike, if he runs very, very well in this race and continues onward in the trail in Southern California, or maybe at Oaklawn.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, of the 4 Bafferts in here, Dan, he was the one who I just looked at and thought he's best suited to the longer distance races, and maybe the one who ultimately goes on and runs in some better races. His debut was fine. He won his debut sprinting, but he did so, just sort of having enough speed to secure the rail. And to me, he didn't look like a horse who really wanted to sprint. And I do think he's improved in his last 2 races. He just, happened to be in against horses that were better than him.
Doesn't it seem odd that Baffert's been running the 3 Speedboat Beach on turf in his last 3 races? Here's his one and only start on dirt. His career debut going 5.5 furlongs at Del Mar, and all Speedboat Beach did was set the track record and earn a 104 Buyer's speed figure. Usually with a Baffert 2-year-old runs like this, you're thinking American Pharaoh, you're thinking Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Instead, they ran this horse 3 times on the turf, and he's run very well on the turf. He won the Speakeasy, he won the Cecil B. DeMille, so a mile shouldn't be a problem. It's kind of scary if dirt is his surface.
Yeah, but the question I actually have to ask yourself, Dan, is, how can you think that dirt is his surface if Baffert went right to turf with this horse after a 104 Buyer in his debut? It makes 0 sense to me. I still think he's a really dangerous horse in here, Dan, because I think he's the Baffert who was going to the lead of this race. And so maybe that's all it will take in here. I still couldn't trust him enough to pick him, but I'm afraid of him.
See, I wonder if after that debut, Bob maybe had some distance concerns. And he said, the only way I'm going to get him to the Breeders' Cup is in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. So they ran him the Speakeasy, the Juvenile Turf Sprint, but then they stretched him out on turf in the Cecil B. DeMille. It worked. We'll see if he gets back on track on dirt. Reincarnate looks like the late developing Baffert type. He has won around 2 turns on the main track. Let's watch this performance at Del Mar back in November, where he was able to get to the lead, and he digs down to win. He's a son of good magic. I thought this track was inside speed favoring. Maybe it helped him a little bit, but I do believe that he's getting good right now, and I think he'll sit off of the pace without a problem. I don't think he's a need the lead type.
Yeah, that's possible. I agree with you there. I don't think he's a need to lead type two. Just more than anything else, Dan, I was impressed with his maiden win last time. He got the job done there, but I didn't think he ran that well. And even though he, kind of made it close to back in his dirt debut, that was really no match. His stablemate Fort Bragg to me is way better than he is. He just happens to be really green and didn't put that race away. But that race wasn't as close as it looks.
Paxo Wallop, the number 5, has credentials. He's a multiple graded stakes winner. The problem is those races came on the turf. His one race on the dirt, maybe you could make an excuse. It was sprinting going 5/8 over a sloppy track at Gulfstream. He took money that day like they expected him to be a good horse. He's blossomed on turf. They're going to give him a shot here on the main track. And if he can run some of his turf races, all of a sudden we've got a horse coming from off what could be a fast pace at a nice price.
Yeah, that's true. And that's kind of how I looked at him too, Dan. I couldn't quite get there. I looked at him for a really long time. I do think he's run some good races on the turf. The debut back in June on dirt on that sloppy track, he was super green in that race. So I would just give him a pass for that one. And he's improved since then. Again, I couldn't quite get to him in here, but to me, if I was going to bet against one of the Baffert horses, it would be with Paxo Wallop.
I really like to follow horses that show improved speed in their second lifetime start. And the 6 Spun Intended didn't break well in the debut, but seemed to the light bulb went on maybe second time out at Del Mar. He ran well in his debut despite that poor break. But in this race, he was up close to the pace. And when Mike Smith pushed the button on the turn, boy, Spun Intended took control immediately and kept to his task. He's now paired up 87 Buyer's speed figures in his last 2 races. And while those numbers pale in comparison to the last couple from National Treasure and the race from Speedboat Beach on dirt, they're pretty good, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a step forward. Your thoughts on him stretching out?
Yeah, I don't mind him stretching out for this race. I think it could help him. Your take on him is fair, and I don't really want to disagree with it too much. I haven't really been taken with either of his first 2 starts. He was green first time out. I thought he ran okay that day. I didn't like his maiden win last time. I know that he showed more speed and he paired up the 87. To me, that looked like a terrible field. There was nobody running behind this horse. I don't know. I'll be wrong about him. He's 5-2 on the morning line. I don't like him at all.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Grade 3 Sham. We are hoping that these horses continue to progress and move on the road to the Kentucky Derby. National Treasure is going to be the favorite. National Treasure is way the horse to beat.
Yeah, I just took him, Dan. I have no real strong opinion in this race. I'm afraid of your horse. I couldn't talk myself into him. I'll chalk it out.
I'm curious to see what we get from Speedboat Beach returning to the dirt, because he obviously ran fast in his career debut, and he at least showed the moxie to win at the mile. Like you, I think maybe he'll be the one that is sent to the front. Perhaps he could hold off National Treasure. I do think National Treasure is a very good 3-year-old. 2-3-5-6 for Mike, 3-2-1-6 for me. It's the Grade 3 Sham at the Great Race Place on Sunday. Good luck.